Saint George. Should have released this video yesterday when it was Saint George's birthday. It's a very important holiday in the United Kingdom. Yes, Saint George. Kind of derpy looking. Man, like Christians couldn't draw for shit when it came to the medieval era. Only until Renaissance happens do they actually master the craft of art. Before that, you had the Greeks, which sculpted beautiful artworks and art pieces, and then you have the Christians. And by the way, not all, hashtag, like there were a couple of painters in medieval time that did a great job. But when you look and you compare them with the Greeks, night and day difference. I suppose this has to do a little bit with maybe ideology controlling art. And the people drawing the art, instead of looking outside, they were looking in. Kind of similar to what's happening today with Western cartoons, isn't it? Or Western comic books. You would think like the more technology advances and as time goes on, art gets better and better looking. But no. But anyway, I divert. We're supposed to be talking about Saint George. Yes. Here's the fun fact. Like when I heard this trivia, it blew my mind. Did you know that in the past people didn't pray to God? No, I mean seriously, it's mind-blowing. I mean, it depends on the place, I suppose. No, people would worship God, people would fear God, but when they had something to ask, when they had a personal prayer, they would not have the audacity to pray to God directly. They would pray to a patron saint. That's why you had like patron saints, and it was cities or countries that would have their own patron saint, and then noble households would have their own patron saint, so on and so forth. So the idea is like you ask the saint to ask God, right? Because like they have the connections. Kind of like a little bit of nepotism going on, a little bit of who it's not who you know, it's who you blow type of thing. Very interesting. No, seriously, it kind of makes sense because the switch to Christianity usually came from polytheistic religions where they had like many deities. So it's kind of difficult to imagine like just switching like that, just snap, and all of a sudden you only believe in one God. So they kind of transitioned that, like the transition period was multiple saints, and every saint was representing of various virtues or various abilities. It's interesting, fascinating. And England has Saint George. Now, I found this to be quite significant because we have the mayor of London all of a sudden explaining why it's important to celebrate Saint George and why it's important to be English. And he actually goes in and describes what it means to be English. Because you see, during Brexit, when you had this divide over, whether England should remain in the European Union or not, and a lot of people were saying that the English culture doesn't really fit with the European culture. A lot of progressives were like, "Oh, what is English culture?" Like that's how they hit. Like that was the critical hit, their critical argument. Like, what exactly is English culture? Can you define English culture? Oh, you can't? Then that doesn't exist. All right, a little bit of deconstructionism going on. It's like, what is English culture? Tea? No, do you know that Chinese invented tea? It was grown in India. So if you can deconstruct where tea comes from, if you can assemble the specific parts, then clearly that is not English culture. Sargon actually has a really good video on that. But here's an interesting phenomenon. It's probably difficult for a person to articulate what culture they're from and what makes it unique. But it's very easy for moi, a Romanian, who traveled to London, to articulate what London culture is. Because it's night and day difference between Romanian culture. Like when I went to London, most people there were very open, incredibly polite. They put more accent on the speaking language than their actions. Like it's more permissible to do bad actions as long as you speak the speech. Like for an English person, the speech is it's pivotal, I would say. Paramount of importance. Right? You can behave unacceptable, but you need to speak properly. I mean, hell is shit, like their police goes online and find people who type the wrong stuff. Alright? Like, this is a country that has a problem with a knife epidemic, but the police still has resources to police the online community. I mean, it does say a lot about the British mindset, don't get me wrong. Although, you know, like the people there were a lot friendlier than in Eastern Europe. I blame that on socialism for some reason. Like if you look at Germany, best example, Western Germany compared to East Germany. In East Germany, people are a lot more cold, a lot more withdrawn. It takes a while to get to know them until they trust you. They're a lot more suspicious if they don't know you. Western Germany, people open, people happy. Why is it? I think it's because under socialism, you didn't know who to trust. Like any person could have been an informant. If you opened up and you said the wrong thing, that person could report you to the secret police. So because of that, like after decades, yeah, I assume like people were a little bit more difficult to trust people. And that's maybe why in Britain that's not the case. But the more important aspect is like, why is the mayor of London talking about, you know, all of a sudden about English culture and why it's important to celebrate St. George's Day? Because I thought that the mayor of London is a man of Europe. Like he's not an English person, he's a European person. And I was like, oh, very interesting, right? So all of a sudden he's talking about very interesting things. Like they are very nice. I have to say, like this letter is beautifully written. I don't know if he wrote it or one of his advisors wrote it for him. The only thing is that he says that Christianity is not part of English culture. I dare to disagree. Yeah, and here's why. It's not that you need to be a Christian to be English, but it's difficult not to observe that Christianity has a certain set of values that are deeply rooted within the English mindset. And I do think like these values, and I spoke about it on my live stream, but like these values shaped the nation. And here's a perfect example of one of these values that helped Britain be numero uno. Because it was numero uno. I mean, it trampled the entire world, right? Like, let's be honest. If it wasn't numero uno, you can't trample the entire world if you're not numero uno. I'm sorry. You know, I'm sorry that I'm saying this, but it's true. Now, here's the interesting bit. The Ottoman Empire was one of the most honest nations in the world when dealing treaties with Romania. They would almost never back on their word. Like when they would do a treaty with Romania, they would always follow it through. Other nations, not so much. The Russian Empire always backstabbed us. The Hungarians, the Germans, all these other countries backstabbed. Not the Ottoman Empire. No. Like they would have a deal and they would keep it. The only exception was when the Sultan died. When the Sultan died, all dealings became null and void. Why is this a thing? I'm going to blow your mind right now. All right? With a simple question that you probably never thought about it, but it's going to blow your mind. Is it King James of England or is it the England of King James? This is very important because in Romania it was the same. Is it Vlad Țepeș or Romania, or is it Romania of Vlad Țepeș? So why is it this so important? Like, why is just this one thing which helped create the power which European countries had in order to spread systemic racism around the world? The Christian nations believe that God owns the land. Like, he created the land. He owns that shit. And God anoints King James in order to govern over his land. Right? So it's God, King James, England. When King James passes away, he dies, God anoints someone else. But it's still the same England, fundamentally. So there is a continuity. You can add more to it. You can improve. Now, on the other hand, and this is not just the Ottoman Empire, but almost any other non-Christian nation, they had a different philosophy. It's like, no, like the Ottoman Empire belongs to Bayezid, the conqueror. When Bayezid, the conqueror, dies, well, the next person that's in line with the throne can reform everything. He can just have the Great Reset, the Year Null, and all the dealings and all the treaties and all of that shit goes away. And it's also creating chaos. Like, believe it or not, like, cultural change overnight is a big shock for people. Like, most people aren't built to withstand cultural change like that. It usually takes a little bit of time for reform to kick in, and even then, there's going to be like civil unrest, and instead of focusing on conquering the new land, you're like, oh god, like we got some troublemakers in the empire, we need to deal, with the Armenians or whatever. I need to watch more of the Young Turks to get the down low on that. But you get what I mean, right? Like, that's an interesting thing, and that comes from a Christian mindset. Hate Christianity all you want, but like, this is a philosophy that comes from it. And I don't know if it's unique to Christians, but like, I'm looking at every single European Christian nations, they had the exact same philosophy. Like, the nation remains regardless of who the ruler changes. So to claim that, oh, well, Christianity has nothing to do with England, I don't know. I mean, it's Saint fucking George. You know? How can you say like Christianity has nothing to do with England when you're celebrating Saint George's Day? Now, of course, that doesn't mean you have to be Christian in order to be English. I mean, you can probably be an atheist. If we were talking about St. Patrick, you had to be part of certain religions that can drink alcohol, I suppose, but that's a different story. So, other than that, like, everything he said here is good, you know? The only problem is, like, the English flag, which is considered to be racist. Like, I can't think of many other nations in the world that officially believe that their flag is racist. It's kind of weird, like, they don't even try to change it. And I think, like, they don't try to change it because they want to discourage nationalism. Now, hear me out. You know, like, there is a difference between being a chauvinist, like the type of person that gets violent if they don't see someone saluting the flag, or they don't see someone standing up at a football game. You know, like, there is a difference between that and believing that your nation is horrible and evil. Like, there needs to be a middle ground, I would say. There needs to be something that unifies people and brings them together. It's like, oh, I'm English, you're English too, you know, like, we can have, like, a sort of connection. Just by, like, there needs to be a unifier. Because how else can you expect people to go to war for you? I know, like, we've been living in a time called the Great Peace, but heaven forbid you would actually need to rely on the military, because if the people believe that your nation is shit, how are they going to go to defend it? Why would they go to defend it? It's like, oh, it's shit, let someone else take charge. Don't mind, yeah? And this is the main problem. This is exactly why people have an issue with a man like Sadiq Khan doing this very lovely letter explaining what English culture is like. Because this is the question that hasn't been answered yet. Can a progressive be a patriot? Like, can you have a progressive that is in love with his country? And it depends, you know, like, it depends, like, on the level of progressiveness, I believe. But at least on Twitter and on the internet, the overwhelming amount of progressives cannot be patriots. And I'll tell you why. How can you be a patriot if you think your nation is doing systemic racism? If you think that your police are formed by bastards, and if you think that your nation has not only been a blight on history, but it still is. So with that mindset, okay, how can you love that nation? I mean, you're not accusing it of trivial shit. You're not accusing it of little things that it did. No, it's like humongous stuff. I mean, oh my God, look how many people it oppressed. And it's still doing it. Except now it's even smarter, like it oppresses, it does the sneak oppression. It's like the rogue oppressor. It does it through stealth means, through magical means that cannot be detected unless the critical theorist comes in and goes like, oh, there's the oppression, and over there's the oppression. Aren't you guys oppressed? Vote for me, put me in charge. So, with that mindset, how can you be a patriot? You know, like, why would you go to the military to defend a country that is oppressive? If you believe that, right? Like, why would you even volunteer for community work in a community that's systemically racist? Why would you do why would you lift a finger? Why would you even pay your taxes if you have a big business? Like, immediately you'd find loopholes. Immediately you'd go like, all right, well, let's get a team. Let's make sure that Britain doesn't give a single cent of my money because it's going to use it to oppress people. So if everyone has this mindset, how can you be a patriot? You know, like, a patriot is a person that does a lot of things for the country just because he believes in it. You know, maybe buy some bonds. Like in the United States, they bought war bonds, right? Why would you buy war bonds if you know that your country is systemically racist? So you know, like, please, if you're a progressive and you believe you can be a patriot, although I don't even know people making this argument, let me know how you justify it. Because I'm not even making it up. Like, I'm not trying to, you know, use propaganda or try to put that up on you, like, haha. Like, no, but like legit question. It's like being, I don't know, an authoritarian libertarian. Does it really make sense now, does it? But actually it can. I think like you're going to have an army of foot soldiers that's going to persecute anyone that's not libertarian. Like you're going to force freedom upon people. Like, God damn it, you're going to want to be free and you're going to like it. Or else. I need to coin this ideology, authoritarian libertarian, huh? My God, I will have like a lot of concepts coming, or maybe it's going to be like, a sneaky libertarian type with secret police and stuff, just to find out like, okay, where's the communist, where's the fascist, where's the Nazi, and then they apprehend them and they brainwash them into loving freedom. Let me know what you guys think, and I will see you tomorrow in This Week in Stupid. It's going to be an interesting episode. I already have like 2 pages of links. I'm going to start now doing the gatekeeping, deciding what information you guys will be allowed to hear and which one I will discard, because I try to keep it to a 40-minute length video. So if I were to do all the information, it would be like 4 or 5 hours. Yeah. Don't forget, like, if you want to support the channel, why would you do that? Why would you want to support the channel? Okay, fine. There's a pinned link in the comment section. You can click on it. $1, $5 help. Hey, I need to e-beg. If I don't ask, I don't get. You know, sometimes I ask and I still don't get. Depends on the day. But you can go there, click it. Takes you to my subscribe star, and you can get some really good buyer's remorse there. No refunds, by the way. Like, some people actually said that they're not getting the buyer's remorse. Like, they feel they're actually contributing something with their money. So, because I'm not giving them refunds on it, then you get the buyer's remorse. Because you bought something that you didn't get, and then you want your money back, and it's like, no refund. Like, God damn it, I wish I wouldn't have spent it. So you get buyer's remorse no matter. Like, I'm going to justify it. Don't worry about it. Like, we're going to moralize this together. See you later.